Welcome everyone to the Pierce Downer Burial Ground. We are here to dedicate this informational sign in the burial ground, made possible by the cooperation of the Downers Grove Park District and the Downers Grove Historical Society. I just would like to make one reference to calling it a burial ground. Apparently there is definitely a difference between a cemetery and a burial ground. A burial ground is a much smaller area, place, and that's why we have always called this the Downer Burial Ground. Since 1832, Pierce Downer has been a name connected with our village. It was on this very spot that he camped the first night he spent in the Grove. Just a few words about his life. Born in Vermont Territory in 1782, he relocated to New York as a young man. It was there he married Lucy Ann Wilson Ellis, and his children were born. Downer decided again to relocate, finding a new home for him in 1832 here in Illinois. When I go to school and talk to the kids, I always like to tell a little bit about what was Mr. Downer like. They always wonder, what was he like? Well, I came up with a few words. I call him temperate, because he had an even temper, and many people in the area would come to him sometime to settle differences because there was no law enforcement back in 1832. They would come to him for advice. He was, of course, industrious because he was coming here to raise his crops and animals and build homes here in a time when he was 50 plus years old, so he was very industrious to do that. And he was studious. Some may not know, but he had one of the largest libraries in the area, and he would also subscribe to any local newspapers that he could find, even the ones back from New York they would send out, and he would read about what was happening. We know he was an abolitionist, and his home was used as a stop on the Underground Railroad for escaping slaves. In the years before the Civil War. We know he voted for Abraham Lincoln, and we know that he saw many men from the village go to fight in the Civil War during his lifetime, including his own son George, who was living in Wisconsin at the time, who enlisted when he was only 17 years old to go fight in the Civil War. We know that Downer was 7 years old when the first president of the United States was inaugurated. So think about that if you're a young person. He lived to see 16 presidents in his lifetime, the last one Abraham Lincoln. He lived to see the United States grow from 13 states to 33 states before he died in 1863. Coming here in 1832, he lived in Downers Grove for 30 more years before he passed away, and of course our village has honored him many ways, calling the village after him, the township after him, streets after him, and of course an elementary school just down the block here for Pierce Downer. And his name, Pierce, I always wondered where that first name came from. Well, apparently that was from his mother's side of the family, because she was the daughter of Ezekiel Pierce, so she named her son Pierce after her father. The first grave in this burial ground is that of Lucy Ann Ellis, Downer's wife. She was born in Vermont, and he has a story of her own too. She was born in 1874. She was the daughter of a Revolutionary War soldier, James Wilson, who served with the Green Mountain Boys in New Hampshire. Lucy had married before she married Pierce. She had married Stephen Ellis, a judge from Massachusetts, in 1806, but when he passed away, then 2 years later she married Pierce. And it was in New York that she gave birth to her children, and between the years of 1809 to 1827, she had all her children, 2 dying as babies back in New York. She followed Downer to Illinois as he claimed his 160 acres of land here, and he established his new homestead for her. Her journey came, like many pioneers did, over land and sea, and it was probably taking many weeks before she got here. And once she got here, she found that she was not in a settlement like she was back in New York, but she was in the wilderness where there wasn't much here at all. She was a true pioneer wife. She died at the age of 79 in 1863, and it was because she died in the spring of the year that we are standing in this spot right here because this is where they chose to bury her. Downer had purchased a plot in the Main Street Cemetery when it was established in 1856, which is a ways from here. But when the spring rains came that year, when she passed away, the St. Joseph's Creek was flooded and they couldn't cross it. So they did what many pioneers did. They picked a spot on their farm to make a burial ground for her. And this spot here is the spot where Downer camped the first night he came, so it was an appropriate place to bury her. Some say Pierce died of a broken heart because he died the day after Lucy died. Since those two burials in 1863, 9 more Downers are buried here in this ground. Inside your leaflet, you'll see all the stories of them. We have most of them related to the Elin side of the family. Elin Downer was their youngest son. So we have James and Lucy, who are just tiny children. Their grown daughter, Ada Mae Lindley, who died, and her daughter, Eva Mae Lindley, who died the same year as her, possibly some epidemic that was going through Downers Grove at the time. We have the son, Elin, who was the youngest son, his wife, Ellen Knox Downer, and then we have Nellie Archer Downer and James Downer, who were grandchildren of Pierce Downer. And then we have Earl Downer, the last one, buried over there with the flag. The last one was Earl. He was the great-grandson of Pierce Downer. He never married, so when he passed away, this spot, this land, was then given to the Downers Grove Park District so that they could maintain it. Found in the burial ground are also some interesting other monuments. We have a monument here placed in 1930 that was placed by the DAR. It's a boulder that was actually a part of Downers, one of Downers' barns that they brought here, and they put this plaque on here designating this spot as the spot where Downer came the first night he was here in the grove. And of course we have a plaque in front of the Downer grave there to honor Lucy Ann Ellis Wilson, who was the daughter of a Revolutionary War soldier. We call her a true daughter. So they have put that plaque there. Burial grounds and cemeteries are important places. And I would like to end my words by reading something I found in the Lutheran All Faith Cemetery brochure from Middle Village, New York. This is a cemetery. Lives are commemorated, deaths are recorded, families are reunited, memorials are made tangible, and love is undistinguished. This is a cemetery. Communities afford respect, families bestow reverence, historians seek information, and our heritage is thereby enriched. A cemetery is a history of a people. A cemetery exists because every life is worth living and worth loving and remembering always. Thank you for coming to our cemetery today to dedicate this plaque. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Any questions? Did we introduce Mr. Schlesser?
We did, and we have a question.
Yes. Yes.
This isn't a question, but I believe my cousin's dad is related to the Downers.
Oh, you think so?
But that's on the other side of the family, so I'm not related.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be, I'm sure there are a lot of Downers out there. There are a lot, if you're really interested, there is a book in the Downers Grove Library called The Downers in America, this thick. And it'll tell you all the Downers. There are many that, back then they had a lot of children in a family. So you have just many branches going all over the place. So there are many Downers, yes. Yes.
The plaque here, is that for the tree that was donated? Or do you know?
No, that plaque was given by, there's a plaque in that corner that is given by the Historical Society for Plantings. But this plaque is just in honor of the bicentennial, the 1776 to 1976, the Republican Women's Club put a plaque for the bicentennial to honor that spot. Yeah, so we have this monument and that monument, and there's a plaque there and a plaque there, and the plaque on the Downer grave was another plaque that was added later because the wording was all, you know, going away, so they put those plaques on there too. But some of these stones are very hard to read, especially the little children over here, so it's really great that we have this board now and we can really read about the people who are buried here and have their names and dates and remember them always.